Yo, what's up? It's your boy Philly Dark One for more Hip Hop News TV. And on this episode, we're going to be getting into this serious scam setting. It's a scam that was ran by this couple, DJ ASAP and his wife, and they got busted. It happened back during COVID when everybody was in the house and everybody had money. So people was looking to invest their money, those that were trying to double their money, get a return on their investment somehow. And this couple promised them a return, a lofty return, which went over well with those that wanted to invest. But what they didn't know that they was going to get caught eventually, years later, when it seemed like they got away with it, but they really didn't. But we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to talk about it. All right, let's go.
Be clear about something before we even get into the details of this story. What Marlon Moore, better known as DJ ASAP, and his wife LaShonda did was not a mistake. It was not a misunderstanding. It was not a failed business venture that got out of hand. What these two people did was coldly, deliberately, and systematically look at their own community in the eye, right? A community that was sick, scared, grieving, and financially drowning, and say, "We got you." And then they just robbed them blind. A federal judge in the Eastern District.
See, this is why immediately I don't feel sorry for the time that they got, because y'all preyed on your own community, a community that was deprived, a community that really at the moment had no hope or reasons of ways of survival, and they preyed on that, on their own black community, man. That's why it seemed like we are our own worst enemies. It's crazy, man, how we do us. But let's get back to it.
Texas sentenced both Marlon and LaShonda Moore to 40 years in prison each. Federal prison, that is. For the people who have been following this case since 2021, that number might feel like justice finally catching up. For the over 10,000 victims across this country who lost money, in many cases money they didn't actually have, I want to talk about what actually happened here and what the headlines are kind of glossing over, and what this story reveals about something much more deeper and something that we don't like to talk about. Now, who is DJ ASAP, and why did anyone care to trust him? So if you're not from Dallas, or you're not plugged into black entertainment.
First of all, y'all, to be honest, in all clarity and sincerity, I never heard of DJ ASAP or his wife. So I'm just learning of all this on the fly. Like y'all, if y'all watching, for those that don't know, I don't have a clue who these people are. But whoever they are, wherever they're at now, jail or home, getting their things together to prepare to go to jail, you got what you deserve, man. Like, you prey on your own community, this is what you deserve. Honestly, is it harsh? It is. 40 years straight through. Like, and these people look like they was in their 20s or 30s. Like, you getting out of jail, an old motherfucker. As simple as that. But let's continue.
Circles, the name Marlon Moore might not mean much to you, but DJ ASAP was not a nobody. This man was the resident DJ on BET's iconic show 106 in Park for 4 years. He had a platform, he had reach, and when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, he and his wife LaShonda had something that became more valuable than money itself.
Okay, now his face looked familiar from 106 in Park, y'all. Okay. I know who he is now. I know of him. But let's continue.
In 2020, they had an audience. The couple had also appeared on the OWN network, Oprah's network. The show Family or Fiance, where couples work through, family conduct before getting married. Now, I need you to sit with that for a second. Family or Fiance is literally a show about trust, about demonstrating that a partner is who they say they are, about families vetting the people their loved ones are about to commit their lives to. And the Moores use that appearance, that credibility, that Oprah's network cosign to position themselves as a couple that could be trusted with your hard-earned dollars. And
I could see that. Imagine you seeing a couple on Oprah and you like, Yeah, I seen them before on Oprah, and they come up with this plan and scheme, whatever, and you like, yeah, why not? It would work. I mean, these people are trustworthy. You would feel, open to trust these people because you've seen them on TV with somebody like Oprah. You know what I mean? Using her base. Come on, man, that's easy. That's easy prey for anybody to get caught. Following something like that. I would have. If I saw them on Oprah show and then they came out with this thing, this investment situation, I'm like, yeah, I got $500 to throw at it, $1,000 to throw at it. You know what I mean? What could it hurt? They honest, at least we thought. But let us continue.
Respectability. This is what nobody is talking about enough for me. The media visibility wasn't incidental to the scheme. It was actually very much central to it. Now, the IRS criminal investigation special agent assigned to this case said it himself. The Moores used a polished image and even a reality TV appearance to build trust. You don't accidentally end up on Oprah's network and then happen to run a pyramid scheme. The public profile was the mechanism. The con was always the point. Now let's talk about BINT, blessings in no time. Because the construction of this scheme is something I really want you to understand. It wasn't sloppy, it was engineered. Now from June of 2020 to June 2021, right in the gut of the pandemic, the Moores launched Blessings in No Time out of their home in Prosper, Texas, a wealthy suburb out there in Dallas. They marketed it directly and deliberately.
I gotta read this, y'all. According to court documents and evidence presented at the trial, LaShonda Moore, 38, and Marlon Moore, 39, of Frisco, Texas, co-founded and ran BINT, known as Blessings in No Time. That's crazy how y'all using blessings to do scheme. That's where y'all messed up at. Y'all use blessings. Like, come on, man. Blessings only connected to God. Y'all should have known y'all was gonna get figured out. But let's continue. Blessings in No Time, an illegal chain referral pyramid scheme that targeted victims during COVID-19 pandemic from June 2020 to June 21. BINT targeted and recruited victims with false and misleading promises through weekly live streamed video broadcasts to thousands of participants across the United States. Damn. During the COVID-19 shutdown, victims were falsely promised that participants would earn 800%. Can you imagine that, y'all? 800%. Somebody telling you going to get a ROI on your investment of 800%, not 100%, 800% returns on each 1,400. They was asking for 1,400. Y'all do the math on that. I ain't too good at math, but they was looking at a nice little windfall of cash real quick during the pandemic. $1,400 investment, and were guaranteed a refund if the participants was unsatisfied. Wow. Boy, they really nailed this home. With BINT, the Moores falsely presented BINT as the means for the new participants to help other members of their own community by paying blessings of at least $1,400 to participants who had already joined. The Moores falsely promised the new participants blessings payments would be paid back eightfold within a few weeks. BINT was falsely presented as altruistic, invitation-only community to help others during the economic downturn from COVID-19 pandemic. It's crazy. I got into something similar to this. It's crazy on my job with somebody that I know very well, and it's crazy how this is closely similar to it. And I'll explain it all to you at the end, what I got into. But I got my money back. But it was wild. This is crazy because it's so similar. And it was during the pandemic, y'all. People, wow. But let's continue.
Black community. Now, what was the pitch? You pay $1,400 to get in at the entry point. The fire level, they called it. Follow the board system. Fire, wind, earth, water, recruit others, move up, and when you hit that water level, you cash out.
This is exactly the same scheme, pyramid scheme that I was involved in. I bought into. I think I paid how much did I pay? It wasn't the same amount of money. I think I paid $200, $400, something like that. Yo, this is crazy. I was a part of something like this at my job where people was basically using water, fire, and yo, this is wild. This is wild that I came across this. This is crazy, but let us continue, yo. I'm quite sure y'all heard of this scheme because this was taking place all over the United States. This is crazy. Wow. But let's continue listening. I'm intrigued.
800% return on a $1,400 investment. Guaranteed. They told people they would get $11,200 back. They told them that if they were unsatisfied, they'd get a full refund. They hosted weekly live stream broadcasts that thousands of people tuned into during the lockdown. They called it an invitation-only community designed to help people help their community.
Exactly.
They invoked faith. They invoked blackness. They invoked collective uplift at the exact moment when black people were dying at disproportionate rates from the pandemic, losing jobs, struggling to keep the lights on, and they said, come put your money with us because we're all a family. Now that language, right? Community, blessings, family, was not accidental. It was load bearing in the architecture of this fraud. Now here's what I want people to understand about pyramid schemes that the basic explainers always miss. They don't work despite the trust people place in them. They work because of it. The Moors weren't exploiting strangers. They were exploiting the exact thing Black Americans have historically had to rely on when banks wouldn't give them loans and institutions wouldn't let them in. Communal investment, word of mouth trust, and a belief that when someone in the community says they have something for you, they actually mean it. They took the cultural machinery of mutual aid and ran a fraud through it. Now here's where I kind of have to slow down a little bit because the media coverage of this story has been inconsistent and in some places genuinely misleading. Now some outlets reported $25 million, some said $10 million when the original indictment dropped. Now the Department of Justice sentencing press release now confirms the number is well over $30 million, defrauded from more than 10,000 people nationwide. Earlier civil reporting from 2021 put some estimates even higher than that, with some sources citing nearly.
Let me tell y'all something. Me personally, if I was involved with something like this, I would have been scared shitless with any amount of money that they came up with. I'm talking about if it wasn't money that you couldn't pay back and you seen how this thing was eventually unraveling, I'm shitting bricks in my pants that this thing is going to blow up in my face. Like, I'm going to jail. And they had to think that at some point, but you know how greed gets you when you get too deep in. I think they got too deep in and it was too much to bear and they had to keep going because the thing of the scheme is, it's like you gotta one person pay one person, then one person pay the other person, and it flips like that and it keep going. So I'm quite sure people were getting paid in the scheme, just like in the scheme that I was a part of, that people was getting paid, but others weren't. So some people was complaining, but then some people was satisfied. And that's what happened to them. I'm quite sure if you go interview people that was a part of this scheme, they got paid. People got paid. Individuals got paid, but then there was some disgruntled ones that rocked the boat and eventually sank the boat. And that's what took place here, y'all. But let's continue.
$30 million total funneled into the fraud and into the scheme. That discrepancy matters a lot because every time the number gets revised down or reported inconsistently, it kind of softens the reality for the readers, right? The truth is that more than 10,000 people, mostly Black men and women across the country, lost real money to this couple. Some lost $1,400, some lost significantly more than that. Like the couple who reportedly invested well over $6,000 and said that they felt played. There's a retired teacher from Mississippi, right, Rosetta Fleming, who was one of the first victims to speak out publicly. She and her husband put in around $7,000 and didn't receive anything.
Marlon and LaShonda Moore appeared in a Collin County courtroom 4 years ago.
I think the truth will come to light.
To face civil charges filed by the Texas Attorney General's office.
No comment at this time.
The case.
See, people kills me when they get caught up in their bullshit and they start talking about, yeah, the truth will come to light. Yeah, the truth will come to light that you was robbing people, man. This woman put $6,000 or $7,000 on the line and y'all gave her nothing, zero. How did y'all think y'all was gonna get away with this? Man, people kills me that run fraud schemes. Like, y'all going, like, this thing just gonna get swept under the rug when y'all dealing with large amounts of money. This not $1. You talking about thousands of dollars. Yeah, insane. Did you hear what he said? The truth will come to light. Yeah, the truth gonna come to light that you gonna get 40 years, you and your wife. That's mad. I hate people who do stuff like this, especially when you do it to people that don't have shit already and you preying upon them. But let's continue.
Ended with a $10 million judgment against them. Now the couple, accused of running a pyramid scheme out of their Prosper home, has been criminally convicted in federal court.
And we were just played. We were played with our feelings. We were promised the money. We didn't get it.
Rosetta Fleming says she and her husband invested more than $6,000 with the Moores, were guaranteed returns on their investment, and promised refunds if they weren't satisfied.
We didn't look at it as like it was a gamble. We look at it like it was something out there that could help us, you know, pay the bills, feed our children.
Through the program called BINT, or Blessings in No Time, she says members were organized on playing boards and were told they'd be blessed or paid for recruiting new members at each level. But Fleming says she never received a dime or the refund they requested.
They were African Americans as well, and they were taking advantage of us.
In a federal indictment, the Department of Justice says the Moores targeted the African American community during the COVID-19 pandemic with false and misleading statements and promises regarding high returns to unlawfully enrich themselves, then tried to conceal their scheme.
Because they specifically stated no other race, no other group of people, no social media.
After a 4-day trial.
See, right there. You preyed upon your own people. Damn. Shame on y'all, man. Y'all disgusting. Like, how can you prey on your own people? Like, and, you know, the same rule applies to drug dealers in the hood. When they selling drugs in the hood, who else you selling to but the people in your hood? People robbing people in their own hood. Like, people don't have as much as you have. Like, they living in the same community. If they was millionaires, you think they'd be living in your community? No. They be somewhere in gated communities. But I don't know, y'all. This sickens me, man. It really does. Like, they every year that they do it this time, they deserve every year. And I hope that they are made to pay back every penny to each person. I hope and pray. But let us continue.
Sherman, a federal jury found the Moores guilty Friday of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and money laundering. The couple, who once appeared on a reality show, Family or Fiancé, now faces decades in prison when they're sentenced later this year.
That it sent a message out to people that this is not tolerated.
7 months after requesting a refund, they were still waiting. She wasn't bitter, but she was heartbroken. That grandmother trusted these people. That's who they robbed. Now here's where this story stops being just another fraud story and starts being something else entirely. A story about accountability, about audacity, and about what happens when people believe they can outmaneuver the consequences. Now the Moores were not quietly arrested and quickly convicted. This process took years, and during that entire time, they demonstrated a level of entitlement that should be documented in detail. Now, in June of 2021, when they first appeared in the Collin County courtroom to face the civil charges brought by the Texas Attorney General's office, they showed up with private security, y'all. Just let that be. Let that land for a second. Let that simmer. You defrauded 10,000 people, some of whom had lost their jobs because of a global pandemic, and you roll up to court with a security detail like you're the victim, like you need protection from the people whose savings that you stole. Now, the Texas Attorney General won a civil judgment of $10.76 million against them back in 2023. Now, it remains unclear how much of that has ever been paid. Now, in Arkansas, the Attorney General settled a lawsuit for $450,000. The scheme was documented on CNBC's American Greed. Federal criminal charges dropped in November of 2023. And then And this is the part that I genuinely cannot get over. In January 2025, both Marlon and LaShonda pleaded guilty to 1 count each of money laundering. The plea agreement would have significantly reduced their exposure, maximum 10 years. They were about to walk out of a $30 million fraud scheme with a fraction of the punishment that they actually deserved. But here's what happened. In March of 2025, they were detained by the court after violating their pretrial release condition. The court didn't like what it saw, and in September 2025, the judge vacated the plea agreements entirely. Gone, like a fart in the wind. They went to trial in January.
Did y'all hear that? They violated while they were going to court, where the judge was like, "No, we not taking y'all up on that deal." So what did they do to violate this? Was they still running the scheme? Was they still out there communicating with victims on social media? Like, wow, that's insane. And not only that, they showed up to court with a bodyguard. Yo, these Negroes were super arrogant. Super arrogant. Damn, they deserve every year that they got. Man, let's continue this.
2026, and the jury convicted them on every count. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 5 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, and this June got over 40 years each. Now, I need someone to explain to me what they did to violate their pretrial release, because the details no one really knows, right? They haven't really been widely reported, and that detail really matters to me, at least. Were they continuing to move money? Were they in contact with victims? Were they trying to flee?
Exactly.
Whatever it was, a federal judge looked into that and said, absolutely not. We're just not going to do this plea deal. And that decision is the reason that they're now facing 4 decades in federal prison instead of a soft landing. Now, I want to stay on this for a moment because it keeps getting mentioned as the background color in the coverage that I'm seeing, and it deserves to be centered. Now, the Moors frame BINT not just as an investment, but as a spiritual and racial mission. Court documents and victim testimony consistently describe the scheme being marketed as a godly, all-black, socially conscious.
Boom. You can't play with God's name, man. Y'all dirty. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. You put God in something foul, eventually he gonna put that ass belt to ass. You hear me? Do not put nothing with God's name that's foul. You foul about it and you know you foul, you running schemes. Yeah, all right, come on. Y'all see what happened. And I'm quite sure countless others have met different fates, death, imprisonment, all kinds of crap, playing with God's name in some dirty schemes. Yeah, y'all see what they got. Come on, let's continue.
Community. They use the language of mutual aid, the historical tradition of Black Americans pooling resources together to survive when the formal financial systems excluded them from it, rotating credit associations, church tithing structures. These are real, legitimate, culturally rooted practices that have helped Black families build wealth for generations, precisely because mainstream banks wouldn't allow them to do it. The Moors knew that. They're Black. They understood the cultural architecture, and they reverse engineered it as a con that would benefit them. This is the part that cuts the deepest, and the commentary is largely failing to address that, right? They didn't just steal money. They stole trust. They eroded something that Black communities genuinely need. The ability to invest in each other, to believe each other, to pool resources without fear of being set up. And every time someone like the Moors comes along and runs this kind of scheme through a community, it makes the next generation of legitimate Black financial organizations harder. It gives ammunition to the skeptics. It turns community members against each other. The Moors scammed, conned, hoodwinked over 8,000 Black and brown people during a pandemic. The word hoodwinked isn't just colorful language. It is historically specific. It's Malcolm X language. It carries the weight of a community that knows exactly what it means to be deceived by someone who came dressed to you as a friend. Now here's an angle that's kind of getting almost zero airtime in the coverage that I'm seeing. BINT didn't reach 10,000 people because of 2 people with a camera. It reached 10,000 people because there was a recruitment infrastructure, the structure of the scheme, the playing board, the fire, wind, earth, water levels required existing members to recruit new members to advance. That means that there were people in communities across the country who were themselves recruited, who genuinely believed in it, and who recruited their aunties, their co-workers, their church friends, and their cousins. Now, the Department of Justice indictment acknowledged that the Moors reassured participants that BINT was operating within legal boundaries. They told people it was legal, and those people in good faith went out and became the distribution mechanism for the fraud. Now, some of those recruiters lost more than they invested. Some of them now have to live with the fact that the people they bought in, people who trusted them, also lost money. The psychological damage of that, particularly in tight-knit black communities where reputation and trust are everything, doesn't get a press release. That is also why the 10,000 victim number may actually be a lot higher, because many people who participated and lost money, particularly those who were also recruiters, may not have filed complaints. Shame is really one of the biggest silencers. When you were both victimized and unknowingly complicit in victimizing others, a lot of people just go quiet. And that silence protects the Moors' legacy more than it really should. Now, let me be fair about something, because balance matters here. It always does. There are people in this community who are going to look at the 40-year sentences for a financial fraud case and feel some type of way. I hear you. We live in a country where violent crimes routinely get lighter sentences, where white-collar criminals who defraud billions get gentlemen's club minimum security stays, and where black defendants generally receive...
Now, see, that's where I don't argue at. I'm like, I agree with what he's saying, that some criminals have gotten less for murder, but my thing is, just because they got less, I don't feel bad because these people got more. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, they got off with just a slap on the wrist with taking a life, which they should have gotten more. Me personally, I think if you take a life, your life should be taken. Yo, sorry about the interruption in the video, but my camera died on me. But to wrap it all up, y'all know as well as I know, these people played foul, did the black community dirty. Of all people, their black community, we are our worst enemies. I will always say we do the worst to us, to our family members, to our neighbors. Like, we are the worst. We are the monsters in the neighborhood. If you ever want to know, are monsters real? Just look in your jail cells, in your neighborhood jail, and dig on your monsters. But it's your boy Philly Dark 1 for more Hip Hop News TV. Let me know what y'all think about this. Hit me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, y'all. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to tap the bell. I appreciate y'all for watching thus far. It's your boy, and I'm out. Peace.